Let me explain the motivation behind this series of videos that I'm going to do now, that I've commenced doing with this particular one. Um, it came from me watching a video by a YouTube person named Snarky J. She's a cute young brunette, and I know it sounds gross for an old man to say that, for the words cute young brunette to leave the lips of an old man like me, but that's the way it is, you know. Just got to deal with it. It's when it's true, it's true. So she, Snarky J, had this or has this video out where she's 25 years old, and she said, she decided to do her favorite movie for every year of her life since the year 2000, which made me feel really old because I am really old. But then I thought this is kind of a fun idea, and I am a movie aficionado. Movies have played a huge role in my life. At one time, I thought about trying to go into the biz. I almost went to a NYU film school summer camp. Ended up turning it down, but I could have tried to go that way. It would have been a disaster. I'm glad I didn't. But in any case, the movies have always played or have long played a significant role in my life. So I thought I would do my favorite of the year, except I'm not going to do it for every year of my life because, number one, that would be too long. Number two, I'm not really that conscious of movies in the first, say, 14 years of my life. I started becoming a somewhat regular moviegoer when I was 15 years old, in the year 1986. So that's the year I'm going to start at, which is still a long... I don't know if I'm going to go all the way to the present with this. I don't know if that will be tedious to me or to you or what have you. I don't know if anybody else is going to be interested in this but me. But anyway, I thought it'd be a fun thing for me to do, so I'm going to do it. And you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. Yeah, so let's start with 1986. My favorite movie of 1986 is Brian De Palma's The Untouchables. Oh man, this was a fun movie. This is a movie I highly recommend. It's a shoot 'em up. It's extremely violent. It's about the clash between Al Capone and Elliot Ness and his men, and it's apparently not in any way based on actual history. It's almost totally made up. The events in the movie pretty much never actually happened, except that there was an Elliot Ness who is famous for taking down Al Capone, and there was Al Capone, who was a notorious gangster in the Prohibition era. So this movie has so much going for it. It's not a philosophical movie at all. It's an action movie, and it's a extremely violent action movie. But there is an interesting question that it examines, which is when you are representing law and order, is it permissible to sometimes bend the law a little bit, or if you have to take down evil, in order to take down evil, must one in some way become a bit ruthless and not necessarily abide by the letter of the law? At first, Elliot Ness is this do-gooder. He's this sort of Boy Scout kind of guy, as played by Kevin Costner, and really kind of annoying, not really believable at all that someone would come to his position with such a candy ass. But then the great the great Sean Connery appears, and There's a scene between the two of them. Sean Connery plays this Irish cop, which him playing Irish doesn't really work. It's Sean Connery. He just sounds Scottish. His Scottishness comes through, but nevertheless, the character that he plays is fantastic, and it's a great acting job. Great performance. One of his best. One of the best that I can think of from what I know of Sean Connery's career. And there's a scene where Ness says to Sean Connery's character, I don't remember his name, how do I get Capone? And Connery's character says, you want to get Capone, here's what you do. He sends one of your men to the hospital, you send one of his men to the morgue. I guess I'm sounding kind of Irish there. I sounded more Irish than Sean Connery actually did. But that's the whole idea. Connery says we gotta step it up. We gotta, give it back to him even harder. And there's a hilarious scene where there's been a gunfight. Somebody's already dead in this gunfight, but unbeknownst to somebody else, this mob guy who they're trying to get him to talk. They're trying to get him to spill the beans, to tell them stuff, and he's saying, "No way, I'm not gonna rat on anybody." And then Connery picks up the guy who's dead, but the guy who's watching it doesn't know that he's dead. He picks him up and says, "What's the matter? Talk, man. What's the matter? Can't you talk with a gun in your mouth?" And then he shoots him. He shoots him in the head. And the guy watching, who'd refused to talk up to that point, refused to rat on his mob friends, says, all right, I'll tell you. And these are the kinds of scenes that fill this movie. It's extremely cathartic violence. Oh man, the baseball bat scene. Whoa. Do you, if you don't know the baseball bat scene, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Type in the Untouchables baseball bat scene. One of the tensest scenes ever in a movie. Incredible scene. There are so many great moments. And Brian De Palma is, I think he's a director who's gotten his due now. People seem to respect him. I remember when I was taking film classes as an undergraduate in the early 90s that he seemed to get no respect from film studies types of people. They just turned up their nose at the mention of Brian De Palma, and I never really understood why. It might have been because he was thought to be sexist, because he had a couple of movies, Dressed to Kill and Body Double, which had some serious violence against women, and that created a stir among some feminists. But I wonder if it was just the fact that he's a director who has these, who in some ways is unrepentantly derivative. He's aping Hitchcock all over the place. He's like somebody who knows film really well, and he throws in these things that are references to other films. In The Untouchables, he puts in a reference to Battleship Potemkin, of all things. It's a genre film. It's not a film. It's not like a film snobs film. It's a shoot 'em up, violent actioner. But he's got the skills of somebody who can transcend genre. So in that way, he's a little bit like Paul Verhoeven, whom I'll get to in a little bit. But so at the time, I don't people the film snobs hated him, hated De Palma. Today, he seems to have gotten his due finally. So that's my movie of 1986, The Untouchables. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. You'll love it. 1987. I don't feel as strongly about this choice. But for 1987, I will go with Angel Heart. This is a movie which stars Mickey Rourke. And I have to say, I've never cared for Mickey Rourke. I never cared for him in his heyday. He always just seemed kind of gross and sleazy. Maybe that was part of his appeal. I don't know, but he was thought to be just like this hot young actor, but he really just radiates sleaze. Even when he's not supposed to, even in movies where he's not necessarily supposed to come across that way. But in this movie, it's an effective performance because he does effectively. He is supposed to be sleazy. In this movie, he plays a private detective who's sent on a case to find to solve these brutal murders that have taken place, and the man who's hired him is Robert De Niro, and he plays a character named Louis Cypher. Louis Cypher. Lucifer. Get it? Well, it's that was something I remembered. But anyway, what I think is great about Angel Heart, even though it's not a movie that has stuck with me, it's not like a favorite movie of mine. But when I was looking at 1987, it stood out because the twist ending is so wild. It's so crazy. It's so out there. And yet it makes total sense. It makes total and complete sense. But it's a real rug pull. It's like, whoa. And even though it's a movie from a long time ago, I'm not going to give it away. But the twist ending is very, very, very inventive. It's very interesting. Now, on the subject of 1987, really the movie of the year, as far as most people, most people's perception during that year, and I remember this quite well, was Fatal Attraction. This was a movie. Well, you probably know about this movie with Michael Douglas, where he has a steamy one-night affair. He's a married man who has an affair with Glenn Close, and she turns out to be a psycho bitch. And when he's for him it's over, and he wants to move on, but she doesn't want to move on. She's not going to be ignored, and so she becomes this. She stalks his family, and all of these terrible, dramatic events take place. And I never wanted to see this movie. It always just sounded like a really unpleasant premise. It was sort of like it seemed kind of melodramatic and contrived. I didn't have these. I know I was only 16 years old, but I didn't necessarily have those kinds of that kind of vocabulary at the time. But to me, it just didn't seem. It seemed like I could tell it seemed emotionally manipulative just from the previews. It's trying to make you feel fear and dread and just amping it up to the nth degree. And to me, it was just, it just looked like a big headache to have to watch. So I didn't see it, and I've never seen it. But it was the movie of the year. I mean, and everybody loved it. So what do I know? It just means I'm smarter than everybody else, I guess. Moving on to 1988. 1988, my movie of the year is The Last Temptation of Christ. Now, this was an interesting one. This was a movie that was extremely controversial at the time, and the source of the controversy is the subject matter of the movie, which is it's about the life of Christ, the ministry of Christ, and about his ultimately leading up to his crucifixion. But it's based on a book by Nikos Kazantzakis, and there are a lot of provocative things that are like semi blasphemous, let's say. And I think that the book was banned in Greece, and Kazantzakis was held up for a lot of scorn by the church and by the Greek Orthodox Church at the time. And same thing happened to Scorsese when he made this movie in '88. Interestingly, this was a time when conservative Christians really had a lot of sway. They could steer the culture. That they could, if they got mad about something, if they got worked up about something, which they did about this movie, they almost prevented it from getting released at all. And when it did get released, it was only, well, in Atlanta, it only came out, it only had a run in one movie theater at Phipps Plaza. And the night that it opened, I was there, and there were actually picketers. There were people holding up signs, marching around. So yeah, it's interesting to reflect on a time when conservative Christians had that kind of power in the culture. It's not the case anymore. Although I don't know, this movie would probably still be controversial if it were made today. My thesis, my overall thesis on the movie is that it's a sincere testament of faith, in spite of its the aspects of it that could be seen as blasphemous or semi-blasphemous. What are they? Well, Christ is portrayed as this very this guy who's really unsure of himself, who's depressed, who doesn't really know what he's supposed to do. It comes over him eventually that he's the Son of God and that he's supposed to have this ministry, but it only gets revealed to him. He's not ever confident about it, and then he becomes he behaves in ways that could be seen as somewhat fanatical at times. He's a very, very human Jesus, and Jesus was a man, and he was God. So, it's a balancing act. How much of the human side of him can we show? How much of the divine side? But in the movie, he is the Son of God. So it's really it's ultimately not blasphemous. Let's see a couple other things about this movie. In the movie, Jesus talks Judas into betraying him. He tells Judas, who's his best, his closest disciple, his best friend, played by Harvey Keitel with a Brooklyn accent. He tells him, look, you got to betray me. It's got to happen. I've got to be arrested and crucified, so that I can. That's my mission here, and you've got to be the one to do it. God wants you to betray me. That's a little, that's kind of a little risky theologically speaking, but interesting. And then the thing about it that was the most controversial is at the end of the movie, after Jesus is nailed to the cross, a spirit comes and tells him, "You don't need to die on the cross. God wants you to come down from the cross and live a normal life." So the last half an hour of the movie or so is Jesus having this fantasy of coming down from the cross, leading a normal life, having a wife, having children, and so this is because we see Jesus being carnal, being having sex with Mary Magdalene, and then after she dies, he has sex with Mary and Martha. So that it's a little. This is where people got really squirrely about this movie, and I can see it. I can understand it. But what's fundamental, what's important to know is that this is a temptation. This is something that Jesus is tempted to do, but he rejects the temptation. So finally he says, "No, get thee behind me, Satan." And then we see him dying on the cross, and he dies on the cross in a way that is truly triumphant. It's a very moving ending because he's resisted temptation and done what he's supposed to do. So yeah, it's heady stuff. I really liked it at the time. I think I would still like it now. It's far from perfect, but it's my movie of 1988. Okay, one more. 1989, a number, another sucker. Sound of the Funky Drummer. Not Do the Right Thing. My favorite movie for 1989 is not Do the Right Thing. It's also not Dead Poet Society, a movie that I hated it with a passion. But I felt all alone. I was the only one in the movie theater who hated it of all of my friends. But it's so emotionally manipulative. It's just grabbing at your tear ducts, saying cry, cry, cry. I hate emotional manipulation, always have. So I was very resistant to this movie, but people loved it. People absolutely fell in love with this movie and thought it was fantastic. It had it features a lot of actors who became big later. This was sort of their big debut, with this playing, young men at this boys prep school in this stodgy conservative boys prep school in the 50s. But anyway, I thought it was shitty. I would say there were two movies that really worked for me in 1989. Again, it wasn't neither of these would be the best movie of all, would be among my favorites of all time. But for the year 1989, there's two. First of all, Heathers. Maybe you've heard of Heathers, maybe you haven't. It was a black comedy, which was very, very much ahead of its time. And it portrayed students in high school going on a killing spree of the popular kids, who the mean popular kids. Winona Ryder's real debut. I definitely was crushing on her in this movie. So that was that was one movie, and I would say it definitely still holds up. For the time it was shocking. In today's culture, it would not be that shocking. But at the time, it was really sort of going places that few movies would dare to go. Sort of making light or making jokes about teenage suicide, which was definitely not something that would be done at the time. Most by 98% of the culture. My other favorite movie from 1989 is one that's largely forgotten, and I even forgot it. But it's a movie called True Believer, and it's James Woods. He plays this sort of washed up lawyer who used to take all these cases, all these sort of hopeless cases, and make arguments for all these people who were, his whole thing was, I've got to represent the people who nobody else wants to represent, but he's gotten all cynical and stuff, and then but he takes on a case, and it turns out that he's right, and I don't know. I think looking back, I would imagine it's somewhat contrived, but the performance of James Woods was amazing. I mean, it was very powerful, and it really carried the movie. Robert Downey Jr. played his younger sidekick. So that's my favorite. Those are my two favorite movies of 1989, and that's where I'm going to end this for now. Stay tuned. Let me know if this is something that you want to hear more of, or if it's sort of and I'll maybe make more videos like this detailing other years of my life, depending on the response I get. Thanks for watching.